is autumn, and that means it's flu season. And this year, experts are calling for everyone, not just the elderly and children, to make sure they get a flu shot.
It often starts with a sneeze or even a touch. You can't see it, but once it's in the air or on a surface like this button where it can survive for hours, all it takes is... Highly infectious flu viruses are tough to fight because they constantly mutate, which is why flu vaccines need to be updated each and every year.
A lot of people don't realise how serious flu can be. Even in young adults, you can get severe flu, you can end up in hospital, even in intensive care, even die.
This year's flu is expected to hit 35 to 49-year-olds harder than it has in the past, which has experts worried because the age group is notorious for not getting an annual flu shot. Back in the winter of 2010, 32-year-old mental health counsellor Rodney Owen didn't think much of it when he started feeling a bit sick.
After about a week trying to brush off the flu, I realised that I was in some kind of trouble and I needed some help, so I went to the hospital.
Rodney has no memory of the trip or arriving at hospital.
I was in a medically induced coma for about 11 days. It was very touch and go. My family was called in because we weren't sure if I was going to make it.
In July 2012, just days before Queensland wife and mum Katrina Day was booked to get her annual flu shot, she got crook.
She came home one day after work and she just said, "Look, I don't feel real good." She couldn't breathe. She was in a lot of distress.
Tragically, complications with Katrina's flu caused her to have a massive heart attack, which ultimately claimed her life. She was only 38. Now her husband Nick is raising their 4 kids alone.
I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Would not wish that hour or 2 hours that I sat there and explained to them that mum's not coming home. I sit back every day of the week and wish it was me.
In 2014, the severe H1N1 strain of influenza, responsible for the 2009 pandemic that caused almost 300,000 deaths around the world, is back in a big way.
H1N1 influenza can cause a classic cold and nothing more than that in many people. But if it's severe, it can cause pneumonia and even lead to heart attacks and strokes in older people.
After losing Katrina, Nick has made it his mission to encourage other young families not to put off getting their annual flu shots.
She was working 4 days a week, looking after the kids, sport commitments. It gets on top of you after a while and, yeah, she didn't get there.
I could hear them howling. For more on this, we're catching up with the project's resident medical editor, Dr. Andrew Rochford. Roger, just hearing there, you know, a healthy 38-year-old mum dying from flu complications, that's a real shock. I mean, should everyone be getting a flu shot this year?
Yeah, it's a tragic story. Luckily, it's the rare case, but the lessons we should be learning from it is that we need to take influenza seriously and very seriously. You're spot on. Everyone that is eligible to be getting a vaccination for influenza this year should be getting it. Not only do we know that it protects you from those severe outcomes, those really bad side effects, but it also protects the people around you that are more at risk, the very young, the very old, the pregnant. So when it comes to herd immunity, which is at its core the whole reason why we should all be getting the influenza vaccine, it's not only about protecting us but everyone else. But if people aren't deciding to do it, then we don't get that wonderful protection that herd immunity gives us as a community.
Now, Rochi, we've been talking to you about this for years now. Are we getting any better with this?
Well, sadly, I don't think we are. If we look at the numbers, and you know I love to quote numbers, they're saying today that 1 in 2 middle-aged Aussies isn't going to be getting the vaccine. That's 50% of the population that the US is saying is most at risk for this year's flu season, because that's how we decide how it's going to be here when it comes to our flu season. It's based on what happens there. 60% of hospitalisations in the States were people between the age of 18 and 64. So it wasn't the elderly, it wasn't the real young ending up in hospital most of the time. It was the people in the middle age, the healthy and the fit. So we need to take it seriously. More of us need to be getting this vaccination because we know not only is it going to prevent you from going to hospital, but it really does stop you from getting those really severe outcomes that we heard in a few of those tragic stories just before.
Always good to chat to you, Rochi. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Going to take a break. Stick around. Lots more to come.